Hi, it's Illuminated Mind. How are you? So in the beginning of Kiely Rodni case, Placer and Nevada County Sheriff's Office, they released these unified command updates and kind of these infographics, what law enforcement agencies were part of the investigation, how many personnel have been assigned, how many dedicated personnel hours have been assigned. And if you look at this infographics from August 6th to August 9th, you can find there is assisting agencies. Here in the assisting agencies, there is California Central Intelligence Center. And I don't think I have seen this in the other infographics. It was just in the beginning. And this California Central Intelligence Center, CCIC, it operates in the Central California, and I think it's based in Sacramento. It provides assistance in the nearby counties. It deals with terrorism and human trafficking. And you might be wondering, well, what did they do in this case? Well, it probably wasn't terrorism, so could it be it was brought in because they thought, was this a human trafficking case? Maybe. I mean, family and friends, they were pushing abduction from the beginning. It's kind of strange why they didn't believe it could be an accident. 16-year-old girl with a car, they were drinking and drugs. How could they be so sure, like, she didn't crash her car somewhere? Her last ping was at Prosser. So let's look into this Central California Intelligence Center more. It's a kind of this fusion center. CCIC collects intelligence in Central Eastern California and shares the information to different law enforcement agencies between local and state. They also educate people about human trafficking, forced labor, or sex trafficking. They also spread awareness about crimes, like what different type of scams are going on in the region, and they can possibly warn people, law enforcement, what kind of scams, fool thefts, suspicious activity is going on, so they can stay alert, and the point is to prevent these crimes from happening, and if they see some signs of suspicious activity, they can contact law enforcement. And I believe it operates under Homeland Security, or it is a joint force. And these fusion centers, they are kind of regional, so other regions, they have their own intelligence centers. This is Central California. CCIC, Central California Intelligence Center. Sacramento Regional Threat Assessment Center. And you can send them suspicious activity reports if you have seen something suspicious. Not like if it's something urgent, you should contact law enforcement or FBI, but if you just kind of like, okay, there is this something weird going on, but you are not sure what it is it a law enforcement issue, you can send a suspicious activity report. And you can also become a TLO, Threat Liaison Officer, law enforcement and public safety only. What is the CCIC? What is Fusion Center? Fusion centers are singular, regional location where the missions of the Threat Liaison Officer, TLO, FBI, InfoGuard program and the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force are merged. Information received from local law enforcement, fire departments, public health agencies, the public/private sector and members of the public is analyzed, evaluated and fused with the goal of producing operational intelligence to aid in the detection, deterrence, and disruption of terrorist attacks, both foreign and domestic, against the homeland. A statewide effort supported by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The purpose of facilitating information sharing between local, state, tribal, and federal agencies. The Central California Intelligence Center is commonly known as a fusion center. There are 6 centers in California. So 6 centers in California, and this is one of them, Central California. The guiding principle of the Central California Intelligence Center, Sacramento Regional Threat Assessment Center, is to be primary resource responsible for the fusion of all crimes and terrorism-related threat intelligence for the Eastern District of California. And their website is cacrtac.org. So here is the logo. Here you can submit the SAR, Suspicious Activity Report. Let's check that one out. And these were 34 counties of the Federal Eastern District of California. And you should, before sending anything, any report, you should check the 16 indicators. 16 indicators to help guide what information should be submitted as a suspicious activity report. It's open Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's what's our territory. Eastern District is comprised of 34 of California's 58 counties and covers approximately 88,000 square miles from the Oregon-California border to the Grapevine and from the California-Nevada border to the Coastal Range. And there are the counties. And there is Placer. And there is Nevada. CCIC Director. So let's watch this video, what fusion centers do.
The mission of fusion centers is to serve as the central point for the collection, coordination, analysis, and dissemination of intelligence to first responders, law enforcement, and the private sector.
So really, I think what we are is a clearinghouse for that information, so it can be disseminated timely, and it can be in a fashion that's easily consumable and relevant to the current threat environment. To be the glue and the binding factor between state, local, federal, and territorial organizations who share information and intelligence that protect our nation from threat.
Fusion centers are there to work an area of what's called all hazards and all crimes. By doing that, they're supporting investigators, they're supporting law enforcement officers in the field, they're doing strategic analysis as well as tactical analysis. They're there to help detect that needle in that haystack.
Fusion centers really serve this.
Heard that? I think we heard that needle in the haystack. In the Kiely Rodni case. So what went on? August 5th. So what made them bring CCIC in? Homeland Security, California Central Intelligence Center, FBI, 50 FBI agents, numerous law enforcement agencies, and they want to believe that this was an accidental drowning, even though the case is still open. If they believe it's just an accident, why not just close the case? Why CHP accident report still isn't done, and how Nevada County Sheriff's Office could just say it's accidental drowning, but the CHP report isn't ready. And the autopsy, it doesn't explain how she drowned, because there's no water in her lungs, not in her sinuses. There's no evidence of her drowning, that she was alive when that car went into that water. Because autopsy should be conducted in a way that even if you are not done to autopsy, you can tell what happened. And here you can't tell anything like what happened to Kiely. There is no estimations how long she was in the water, estimated time of death. She wasn't drunk like the friends claimed. Alcohol is formed, ethanol is formed in decomposition, and she was in the water 2 weeks, if we are going with the official narrative.
Unique dual role, and within a fusion center we can provide tactical lead development for an officer who's on the side of the road, and one that's going to make that officer safer, and it's going to make the investigation a lot more effective for that. At the same time, we can take those day-to-day interactions that we have with law enforcement or the greater public safety community that's helping us to assess maybe a threat picture for our state, our region, and if it wasn't for the day-to-day interaction, we wouldn't really be able to better interpret that threat radar picture and understand if what we're seeing is an isolated incident or part of a larger trend.
If an event occurs, Fusion Center is also instrumental in gathering, collecting that intelligence that's coming from the event or from partners associated with the event or believed to be associated with the event, and vetting that information and sharing it with the people that are out on the ground right now that are actually working that case, and giving them a reach back capability.
Fusion Center has become a platform for developing relationships. And when it comes to information sharing and doing intelligence work, those relationships are a cornerstone of being effective in getting the job done.
I think the biggest success is that network, that being that ambassador to the law enforcement community, being able to share information, again, leverage capabilities, network amongst analysts, going federal, state, local, tribal, also collaborating with our private sector partners and things of that nature. It has really provided a wealth of knowledge and information amongst the whole law enforcement community as well as the private sector community.
It's not a law enforcement problem anymore. It's not a Department of Health problem anymore. We're all coming at it together.
Fusion centers are the point where everything comes together. It's the moment where the person who has worked their entire career for their own agency and have developed it, usually as the best of the best within their own agency, are brought into a place that they learn how others do it, how others work, and the assets and the availability of resources that those other institutions have. It's the point that you bring the best of the state, local, tribal, and territorial, and the best of the federal agencies all into one place.
Working together, we're able to see things in a much more rich kind of way with more context and depth. And by us all working together, we can provide that to each other very quickly. We're able to vet that and be sure of what we're dealing with.
You know, Fusion Centers have an ability to share information in real time across the country. A lot of what we do every day is stopping tragedy. You know, our mission isn't to beat the media, It's be able to give them the best official information that we can based on the facts.
The only way to prevent an event from happening is to be ahead of it. So we're trying to be proactive rather than reactive, which is the purpose of what we're supposed to be doing. The threat changes, and as the threat changes, we have to report it, we have to watch in our area, change what we're trying to gather, notify our partners in the region, and make them aware so they're then watching.
Any fusion center you walk into and you see people collaborating and working together. It's not the moments that make the news that are the moments that we shine. It's the moments where we prevent something from becoming the news is where the fusion centers have the most value. I would argue that in every fusion center across the United States, that's happening every single day because of the relationships, the collaboration, and the engagement of everybody who cares so deeply about protecting this country and working together.
Let's see what else we can find. Training. Offers a variety of intelligence-based training, ranging from counter-terrorism and domestic violent extremism to human trafficking and behavioral threat assessment. So we are interested probably in the human trafficking aspect of this case. What made them believe it was human trafficking? Because there have been missing people cases where they have believed it is sex trafficking or human trafficking, but they haven't even signed one FBI agent to the case. Just local law enforcement. They were barely doing anything. And this agency also does training, and they train about threats, school shootings, human trafficking, and some are only for law enforcement, but some are available for all. Co-taught by Truckers Against Trafficking. Human Trafficking 101, Human Trafficking Case Studies, Survivor Presentation, Victim-Centered Law Enforcement Training. Human Trafficking. Forced labor or sex trafficking. Misconceptions about human trafficking. Most traffickers use psychological manipulation, such as tricking, defrauding, and threatening the victims into a trafficking situation. And human trafficking is different from human smuggling, so it doesn't mean person have to go across state or national borders. Victims are often trafficked by their family members or by their romantic partners. The majority of human trafficking victims are afraid for their safety if they leave, and often lack the basic necessities necessary to get out of the situation. Human trafficking is often a crime hidden in plain sight. Victims may be too afraid to come forward and get help. Potential indicators for human trafficking. Is the individual fearful, timid, submissive, tense, or nervous? Does the individual defer to another person to speak for them, or appear coached on what to say? Does the individual appear confused and unable to answer simple questions? Does the individual have their own bank account? Does the individual appear disconnected from family, friends, community organizations, or houses? Has the individual had a sudden or dramatic change in behavior? Does the individual show signs of being harmed physically or emotionally? If you see something, say something. And they repeated it quite a lot to the teens, and they made a plea to the teens constantly. Family, friends, law enforcement, everybody say, teens, you need to come forward. What you saw. If you see something, say something. And they believe teens, they know what happened to Kiely. Kiely had a good family, kind of like when you look kind of outside in. Of course there probably was like problems or something like that. It doesn't mean like it was a bad family situation. Teens are kinda notorious for being teens. They have issues with their parents, but you know. Like Kiely doesn't seem like the victim of human trafficking. Usually traffickers they go for people who don't have good family dynamics, who are easy to lure away from the home, who want to run away from the home. Maybe they want to live in LA or something like that, in big cities, chase their dream. Also, her boyfriends, like ex-boyfriends, Jagger, Nate, they don't seem the type that they would be in this kind of industry. Was this sex trafficking just a ploy, kind of like, yeah, she could be anywhere just to get rid of the teens and don't look into Prosser. They were pushing this abduction so hard. And why Marika Beck said she fears that this could be sex trafficking situation. Usually families can believe it's trafficking because they want the person to be alive. But in this situation, it came just too soon. They hadn't explored any other options yet. And it's kind of interesting that Kate and Jagger went to Reno, and Reno is kind of known for, there's a lot of sex trafficking going on. And then was the whole Salisa Singh messages. Was that also, I don't know, some teen trying to portray like, hey, this is a abduction case? I don't know. But those Salisa Singh messages, they are kind of like troubling because they went quite the effort to convince, like they were sending photos of Vanessa's passport and stuff like that. So if it's a prank or some kind of a scam, it's just way too mean and way overboard. So why Central California Intelligence Center was brought in as an assisting law enforcement agency? What kind of information this fusion center was giving them? Usually it's good, like law enforcement is doing everything they can. But usually law enforcement is also very tight-lipped of their investigation, and when there's a missing person case, they don't like to say it's criminal investigation unless they have solid proof it's abduction or foul play. So So what made them bring Homeland Security, Fusion Center, FBI? That's a lot of resources for a 16-year-old girl missing from a party. And usually those type of cases are just like forgotten. They don't get any resources. They are counted as runaways. Or they had an accident somewhere and, eventually they will find her. When I googled, I found some flyers and kind of campaigns what this Central California Intelligence Center has done. It kind of comes clear that they will gather information like for different types of scams, or kind of like this sextortion that children are victims of. This campaign about sextortion is about how to keep children safe online. It's to warn parents about sextortion and teach parents about online safety. Sextortion, what it is and how to protect your child. Human trafficking, keeping our children safe. A webinar for parental awareness. And this campaign about suspicious drone activity is to spread awareness this is going on, and if you see this, you should contact law enforcement. And then there was this report about situational awareness, fuel theft. What are the signs to say alert? So if this fuel theft is going on in the area, the point is to warn law enforcement and locals so they can be aware and contact law enforcement so they get the bad guys. They gather information about different types of crimes so they can warn locals and law enforcement agencies to be aware that criminals are using these kind of tricks or methods to conduct their crimes. So what made them bring CCIC in? What did CCIC, Central California Intelligence Center, do in Kiely Rodni case? It was only in the beginning. And August 9th was the first pressure. So according to the infographic law enforcement put out, CCIC were from August 6th till August 9th in this case. So very early. Unfortunately, this infographic doesn't report daily. It's the weekend and Monday, August 6th till August 9th. So we don't know like was CCIC all the days or just like, Monday or what was going on. But it is listed that Central California Intelligence Center was brought in. And it would be interesting, like, what were they suspecting so early on? A crime, organized crime? You have to remember, family and friends, they were pushing hard that this is abduction. Why? What were the signs? And the law enforcement, they should have some kind of proof this was human trafficking in order to bring all these agencies in very early in the beginning. You don't see this in other cases. 50 FBI agents, Homeland Security, Central California Intelligence Center, and then there are all these other law enforcement agencies. So they are trying to say this is an accident, was just an accident. Yeah, I don't think so. We need answers from law enforcement. What is going on? Why they use so many resources? Why didn't they find Kiely Rodni for 2 weeks? why the case is still open. We need answers. Thank you for watching and bye.